seems like you've also kind of perfected, your knowledge in the gut health area, right? Because of the program that you got created. I'm interested to know, and Clayton, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. And I want to go specifically back to parasites. So in terms of parasites, what's their connection with heavy metals and with all these other toxins? And how does that affect the parasites when we start getting these toxins removed?
But the parasites want the toxic environment. They thrive in that whole toxic environment. They want low oxygen, high toxins. So I'm not even sure what the connection is with the metals, but a lot of those parasites are, like I say, the ones I got from the tuna. I got the mercury and the parasites together. So I just think they just go hand in hand. I call them demons now. Now that I know the difference between the way they make me feel as a man, as a human, my spirituality is through the roof now, where before, it was hit or miss. I found myself in a lot of dark places because of it like torments you, and you don't even know it. You don't even have any idea why you feel the way you feel. Depression, I feel like, starts in the gut. I feel like it's like all that toxic soup, circulating from your brain to your gut, to your brain to your gut. I mean, how can you think positive? How can you feel good about what's happening in your life? I really believe when you start to try to detox those parasites, they start secreting all extra stuff to make you break, to make you go eat, whatever, or go drink or do whatever it is you do, because they are controlling you in certain way.
How long did that last before you found a solution to that problem? How long
I
were you
think the
suffering?
whole journey was about 18 months, because
Wow.
I stopped training in, let's just say April of 16. And it was January of 18 when I finally purged the kidney worm, when I finally decalcified my pineal gland. I felt like how they say born again. I felt born again. I felt like I died. I felt like the old me died. And like the kid I was when I left home at 17. So that kid I was at 17, 18, 19, I looked in the mirror and he was in the mirror again. As I went from being, my dad's a preacher, my mom's a teacher. I went from that mindset to being a male dancer and a bouncer, right? In the height of Atlanta, when there was, all the kingpin dope dealers was here. I was like in that whole situation. I was about 199 pounds, right? Really? Fast forward 10, 15 years later, I was 310 pounds, competing at the highest level as the X Man. You know what I'm saying? Traveling all over the world, all these different foreign countries. I picked up a lot of parasites, demons, microbiome. It's just microbiome. And of course, after they stay with you a long time, they get a little size to them. But other than that, it's microbiome. And then when you start fasting, you start starving them off. They get pissed off. You pick up the intensity with some herbs and some, ZD like clean slate for one. And man, I even got to the level where, I'm fasting, I'm intermittent fasting, I'm doing, all kinds of herbs, all kinds of stuff. But I even did gum spirits turpentine towards the end. You ever heard of people doing that? They used, back in the day, this is this old slave medicine. Gum spirits turpentine. You take, I don't know, a few drops of that, and boy, it'll parasites hate that. So anyway, I went to that level of the detox, and that's how I finally killed all the rest of them. Because I mean, I literally, I watched them pass out of my, I passed them and I saw them and all that. So it was crazy.
You're like
crazy. Yeah, exactly. And then when you let them go, like you literally get this clarity, this sense of empathy, and you just want to do the right thing. It's kind of crazy because how a lot of times higher view was raised or whatever, but when you purge that stuff, it just makes you more ethical. It makes you, because you're the ones making the decisions now. And I truly believe if you walk around with enough toxins and parasites in you, it's like, you know, like cartoons like Pinky and the Brain or Plankton. They're taking over the world. I mean, they really take over your thought process. You know, like I said, my dad's a preacher, and you hear the scripture about the lust of the flesh, so you immediately think sex. But I mean, sex is like the easiest thing probably to get over. It's all the other little things. It's like, you know, we're addicted to our phones. We're addicted to everything now. So those demons, like us, you know, we're looking at this phone right now, and you got the black screen. You know, that's the other side. All this stuff is coming out of thin air. The fact that we're talking, all three of us, you're in Canada, you're in Tennessee, and I'm in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff is going through the air, and it connects. It's connected to us. We're connected to it. Makes a difference. Frequency, vibration, all that. It makes a difference. Yep.
Well, and we are resonant beings, and we are just a big bundle of energy. And if I can expand on a couple of things that you hit on, as it pertains to heavy metals, and it's important to understand this, that we as humans, our system, when healthy and functioning properly, we are antibacterial, at least negative bacteria. We are antifungal. We are antiviral, and we are antiparasitic, right?
Wow.
But as you're hitting on, the heavy metals create the negative environment. You know, that balance in pH that is just so finite. They create that toxic environment, but it's also the heavy metals that are the food source for those parasites. So when the one thing I have found, and I posted a couple pictures on this recently from some animals that were flushing stuff in 2 days from some dogs and such. And I've seen this in people. We had a group of, there was probably 100 people in Slovenia that, maybe it wasn't that many, it might've been like 20 or so, that for a week, they were all flushing for a week. They couldn't leave the house because it was just bathroom constantly, just flush. And I called one of the docs we had over there, and it's like, what parasite do you guys have over there? She's like, pinworms. I'm like, oh, perfect. That's it. And this just group of people, they were just flushing like crazy. But instead of, like Tony, you were hitting on, and the same thing goes for Lyme disease, right? Because Lyme's just bacteria. It's just really wicked little bioengineered bacteria, but still just bacteria. That if you try to attack them, they will fight back.
Yeah.
Because they're mean little bastards. Any type of parasite, right?
Yes,
they're going to start dumping biotoxins, or they're going to fight back. But if you remove their food source, and if you change the environment, they can't survive, and then your body takes over and says, guess what? You got to go.
Eviction notice.
Fight back.
Yeah, eviction notice.
It depends. It's the aspect of like fighting a fire. Do you say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to have to throw a bunch of water on this, and we're going to do this. It's like, or do we just take away your oxygen supply?
Yeah.
And it's how do you want to win it? And that's one of the unique aspects of what we've seen with Clean Slate when it comes to all of those bacteria, with Lyme especially, but mold, other biotoxin issues, parasites and such. And it's a lot like boiling a frog, right? Because if you heat up the water and you throw the frog in, they're jumping out. It's chaos, pandemonium. But if you got the frog in the pot, and then you just start turning up the heat a little bit, you'll cook the frog because they won't leave.
Yeah.
The same thing goes in process when it comes to doing really good passive systemic detoxification.
Yeah.
This is something that it has to be done slowly. And Dr. Stefan Rao used the greatest analogy I've ever heard about this process. And he's a virologist, an immunologist, a PhD, really well published, one of the world's leading experts on vitamin D supplementation and immunology. And we talk about, and I'm guilty of this, and because I never thought of this analogy. we always talk about balance being like a scale. We're not. We're like a mobile, right? So you got all of these different things hanging off. And if one thing over here even moves a little bit, it shifts everything.
Yep.
So the key is not creating too much chaos at one time. Just doing a little bit here and there and moving stuff and getting stuff out so you don't disrupt the balance. But you're making a huge difference because you're creating a better aspect of homeostasis. And that's when you start to see stuff. And we've become a microwave society where people want immediate results. They want to see stuff really quickly. But when it comes to real systemic wellness, this is not something that you can do quickly. You can hurt someone. You can kill someone. You can do permanent damage. But if you are doing something that is really looking at everything that you've gone through since you were in the womb, and this is what's crucial, and Tony, you hit on it. It's like I was full of heavy metals. This just in. We all are. Ever since you're in the freaking womb. And that's what we're dealing with. It's great. You know, people are like, well, how long is this going to take me? It's like, well, how long have you been here? Like, what do you mean? It's like, how long have you been alive?
Right.
And where did you grow up? Where was your mom from? Where's your grandmother from? Where's your great-grandmother from? Because what was in them is in you. And then your exposure every day of your life, every bit of air you've taken a breath from, the food, the water. We can get into what you've had injected into you, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, and all of these different aspects. It's all of those components that are making up this process that makes us who and what we are now. And you can't fix that overnight. It's a process. And that's really the journey.
I basically use that same thing. You're born, you're the closest thing to a human that you'll ever be for the rest of your life. After that, your added microbiome from outside sources. So in other words, it's fused with your DNA now. And I mean, think about, when I was coming out of my whatever, that's what I started thinking. Those thoughts came into my brain. I'm just like, I literally put on 162 pounds on my 162-pound body. And I'm like, what was that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how much of that was really me? And how much of that was like one of those Hondas with the kid on it? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, all that stuff was like added on. It wasn't me. And so how could I expect to be really me under those circumstances? I'm not. When you're full of toxins, when you eat nothing but processed food your entire human existence, well, by the time you're 25, 30, you're, 20% human now? I mean, if that, you see what I'm saying? Like, and that's why we see all this hate and all this other stuff, because I believe that is added on. That's stuff that you learn and collect throughout your lifespan, and it becomes you. It's not really you, but it becomes you.
Yep.
Right.
And that's the journey.
And you know what? Even I'll share. It's funny, Clayton. You mentioned how to deal with parasites on a very slow manner. Actually, I don't know if you ever heard of a device called the Zapper. So I tried the Zapper and I did it. I just had it placed actually on my thigh 3 days. As long as I could, I was just holding it. Blah blah blah. 3 days later, I kind of just set it aside and I forgot about it. And because I did that, I just left it. But the 3 days that I really shocked the body, after that is when they got their revenge on me, because I remember it was after that I started, within like a couple of weeks, I gained like 10 pounds and I just started feeling like shit. And I'm like, then I couldn't pinpoint it. And then 2 months later, it clicked into me, like that Zapper, man. You started a battle, you started a war, but then you retreated.
You got to finish them. You got to finish them because they come back with a vengeance. Wow, you really got to finish them. And like I say, it's levels too. You can't throw napalm on them. You got to like send spies in there first, and So like the turpentine, you drop the turpentine on sugar cubes. So you fast for a while first, then you eat a sugar cube, then you drop some turpentine on the sugar cube and eat that one. So you draw them out with the sugar cube and then you kill them with. It's no joke, bro.
It's a strategy, man.
It's no joke.
It's Sun Tzu fucking shit.
It's no joke. But when they leave you feel like you know that, wow, I was actually toxic. I was actually full of parasites.
There you go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So my program, right? I call it Gut Righteous, and basically it's 3 days of clearing the clutter, which is basically fasting with just bone broth and sauerkraut and the supplements. And then the day 4, you start adding back green leafy vegetables, so the good friendly microbiome can proliferate. And then I tell people to add protein back day 5 and day 6 and 7. And then after that, of course you're already in ketosis. You could do any kind of diet or program you want after that. Yeah. And then I say, now you have the ability to build back better. You can put only good food in there if you want. You know what I'm saying? And that will be what's in there. So that's kind of what my program is about. Got some people getting crazy results. And, like I say, most people are losing double digits because they're so toxic. And most of that's water and just whatever was in their digestive tract.
Right.
So.
All right, man. This was
or fortunately.
It's a very, very enlightening conversation here.